Welcome back. It's Tuesday on TV3Newday. Thank you very much to all the folks at Keta, Angloga, as well as Ketu South yesterday for coming out in your numbers to make sure that the corporate social responsibility activity that we had with you in mind, Ketsi Early Beach Resort and Media General, was a big success. And thank you to all the collaborators who also came out to support us, and for all the companies that came on board and the individuals as well who brought us some goodies, clothes and food and all other things to be able to give to the people in need. We're grateful. Victims of the tidal wave, the Save a Life campaign is still on up until the 12th of December. So if you have some items, relief items, they're asking for cement bags, and they're asking for nails and wood and roofing sheets and all of that. If you have some, you can drop them at Early Beach Resort, or you can drop them off at TV3 in Accra. We will put them together and we will go and give them like we did yesterday. Thank you also to Grant Bar Clothing in Dansoman for my outfit this morning. Call them 020-985-5696. A few happy birthdays before we get into that conversation about the most trending issue in this country at this point. Happy birthday to my grandson. Yes, I have a grandson, Emias Papa Franny. You're 2 years today. Happy birthday to you. Also a happy birthday to Madame Helen Gwasin of the Ghana Highway Authority. This is from Cecil Budai Wentum and all your friends at the Public Affairs Division of the Ghana Highway Authority. Also a birthday wish to Nana Ama Asantua Kusi. You're 2 years old. This is from your father, Richard Kisi of the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors, and Mrs. Joyce Asari Kisi of the Tema General Hospital. Also to you, Mrs. Helena Harrison. This is a birthday from Prudence here at TV3 to you. And last but not least, to Madame Helen Gwasin of the Ghana Highway Authority. Dr. Rashid Draman is joining me. He's the Executive Director of the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs. Doc, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Always good to have you.
Thank you.
How are you there?
I'm good. I hope you are good too.
I am alive and well. Saving my leg. I twisted my ankle yesterday, but we're fine.
Okay.
We are fine.
Yeah.
So let's go into Parliament.
Yes.
Last Friday, debate had been done, was expected to take the concluding remarks from the majority and the minority leader, and then we will put the question whether or not to accept the budget for 2022 or not. For you, a turn of events in Parliament, what does it say to you?
What it says to me is one important thing that we missed as a country, because we were in this studio on the night of January 6th. We sat through the night here, discussing the events as they unfolded and watching the election of the Speaker. Immediately after that, I think all of us said, look, given the tight numbers and given the fact that the Speaker, for the first time, is not from the majority side or the ruling side, consensus building and continuous building of bridges between the two sides was going to be what would make this Parliament avoid gridlock.
Right.
We've tried, I think, in the last 11 months at our own level to try and see how some of that consensus can be built. We found ourselves 11 months later in a situation where it looks like the two sides do not really trust one another. It looks like there have been efforts at trying to build consensus. But when you hear them speak, each time we take one step, then you see, if you like, some kind of backtracking in terms of building consensus, in terms of getting them to work together.
Okay.
We saw a situation that could have been avoided.
Which situation is that?
Which is, the Minister for Finance was in Parliament on that day, and he sought to build consensus, which was very good, in my opinion.
Somebody says, look, he had opportunity all week
yes,
when the
exactly.
debate was ongoing.
Yes.
He didn't appear, only for him to appear at injury time.
Yes, that's
to
the
ask
point.
for time, not to meet with everybody,
yes.
but just the leadership.
Yes.
They thought it was not good.
Yes, that was the point I was going to make. That effort should not be only at the 11th hour. That effort should be a daily effort, given the character of this parliament. And also, I think the majority side would have to take note of one thing. During the appointments of ministers, when the NDC went to the media, press statements, press conferences, and said so many things about, some of the nominees, the ministers designate. And then when it came to
the approval,
the critical moment of counting the votes, they did something different. And their base was very, very angry in this country. So I believe were the deciding voters, that's the swing voters. So I think the NDC learned some very important lessons, because that was their first test at accountability, and the according to their base and according to some of us who watch Parliament, I think they failed that test.
Do you think that this present situation and the hard stance they have taken will win back some loyalty for them?
Yes, indeed, it will. It will. And that is what the majority side would have to keep in mind. That whenever they come out and say something, they really mean it. Because I was on a program with some NDC members who said, well, the Minister of Finance said, we know how to sort the NDC out. I think they took a lot of offense at that. And their base was watching. So were, Ghanaians who don't belong to either side. So I believe the lesson here is, look, at all times during these 3 years that are left, for me, number one priority for the leadership of Parliament is a lot of work at building consensus.
There was a walkout
Yes.
instigated by a first-timer, MP for Impraiso.
Yes.
He turned on the microphone without the speaker's permission. He spoke on the floor, banging tables, and even came down towards the leadership bench and turned on the microphone as well. What do you say to that? Well, the leadership of Parliament on the side of the majority followed him out.
Yes.
What do you say?
So what I say to that is, again, going back to the issue of consensus. The consensus and the relationship building is not going to only be between the minority and the majority. I think the relationship between the speaker and the majority side, if you observe over the last, because this is one speaker who has been challenged by the majority side more than any other speaker that I have known. Over the years, we hear every now and then particularly the minority side disagreeing with the speaker, and even in the 7th Parliament, there were instances when Honorable Haruna and his group have had concerns about some of the rulings of the Right Honorable Speaker Okwe. But in this particular 7th Parliament, because of the character of the Parliament, we've seen many, many instances just in one, sitting alone, because we are just finishing, the first sitting. And, this doesn't do very well in terms of, look, at the end of the day, the Speaker has a lot of powers. And I think that he showed some of those powers on that day when...
His powers were challenged by Afenyo Marking, Deputy Majority Leader, when he called for the voice vote as to whether to allow Mr. Keno Foriata to have that injury time consultation.
Yes.
And Afenyo Marking says, well, he thinks that the Speaker got it wrong, which is what inspired his call for division.
Yes.
Okay. So it was obvious.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, as you realize, for instance, he says, anybody who is not a member of Parliament should be out of this chamber.
Right.
According to his reading of the standing orders and so on. The prayer by the minister, eventually, if there was, in my opinion, if there was very good relationship with the Speaker, maybe things would have turned out
They said that Sidun
differently.
Ketia was in the House as well. He was in the public gallery.
Well,
did the Speaker err by asking Mr. Foriata and Eduwahin to go out while Asiedun Ketia staying there?
No, I don't think that the Speaker erred, because there are two different situations here. Because you see, when there is a voice vote, it's not like when
there's a head
count or a secret ballot where each individual will get up and go. You know, it's based on the decibel, if you like, of the yay or the nay. So if you are sitting in the chamber and you join the chorus in one way or the other, it could affect the outcome.
Right.
But if Asiedun Ketia is sitting in the gallery and the NPP felt that would affect the outcome of the vote, then I would have thought that instead of Asiedun Ketia alone, they would have cleared the entire gallery, because he wasn't the only one who was
where
there.
the press was too.
Indeed.
And who was going to report?
Well, maybe because I think the press has a different, sitting area.
So what happens is that there's a press gallery and public gallery.
Yes, there's a public gallery.
But then the public gallery now also serves as a holding point for the cameramen. So you have the broadcast journalists or the reporters sit at the press gallery.
Yes, so indeed.
But the cameras are positioned on the opposite side.
Yes, indeed, Johnny.
Just to pick the speaker and others.
So the point is that really the issue about Asiedun Ketia is neither here nor there. It's just, I think the majority was just trying to find a reason. And based on that reason, they walked out.
Did the speaker err again in putting the question on the budget? Because he didn't have a full house. He didn't have at least 50% of the membership of the House. But he went ahead to put the question
that's
as to whether to accept or dismiss the budget for 2022.
That's a subject of a lot of debate, because the discussion started, the motion was moved when the House was full. Now, in the course of the debate, one group decided to walk out. Half Article 104 and so on, all the legalities, you talk about half of the House, you are talking about 137.5.
Right.
Because we have a very strange parliament where we have an odd number. Most parliaments have even numbers because of situations like this. So you have a situation where you needed 137.5. That is not possible. So now I think it's up to the courts to determine whether the speaker erred. Otherwise, if there is 137, because the NDC side was complete.
That's right.
The NDC side was complete.
That's right.
And if you stretch the argument, Johnny, if you stretch the argument, on the day, on Friday, I think many people said that at least there was one member from the MPP that was not present.
Right. Lawyer Adjoa Safo.
So if you take, assuming that all the MPP members were present, that gave them 137. Minus the one member.
1%, right.
And then there was 137 from the NDC side. So technically, somebody could argue that at least the House was properly constituted and that half number was present. But now I think it's up to the courts, if they so wish, to take that course, which would not be, in my opinion, a course that will lead to any consensus building that we are all.
What's your position? Do you consider the budget approved or dismissed?
Well, I consider the budget to be in a state of stalemate.
Why is that?
Because, there are legal arguments, and I don't want to get into that, about, whether it's approved or not. The MPP side says it's a nullity, what happened. The NDC side said, well, a motion was carried, and we carried the day in the opposite direction. Whatever it is, there's a disagreement between the two sides, and we are in situations now where every side has to be very careful, because look, just an absence of one or two members, and we are all humans. You can wake up and then you are incapable of going to parliament. And then your side is deficient by 1 or by 2. And that creates a problem, particularly
is the minority asking for too much? They're asking for at least 5 things to be dropped. E-levy, they're asking for a JAPA to be dropped as well, and 3 others. Are they asking for too much?
The minority, you know, before I answer that question, let me just step back and tell you something about, you know, budget politics.
Okay.
Based on the research and studies that we have been doing, there's something that is called the common pool problem in budgeting and in the involvement of parliamentarians in
formulating the budget.
Yes, formulating the budget. And the common pool problem simply says that, look, if you allow too much power in the hands of members of parliament, then what we are going to end up with is that, look, all the 275 in our case would like to see their constituency in the budget.
Okay.
Then you have a ballooned kind of expenditure, and then the resource envelope might not be able to support it. Where the finance minister sits, I think he has a much bigger picture in terms of our revenues and expenditures. So he knows, or he is better placed to know the kind of resources that we need to meet the expenditures that we are going to have in the
I hear you.
Yeah. So the point I'm making here is that if you look at the list of demands by the NDC, I think 3 of them.
Sea defense wall.
Yes, sea defense wall is an expenditure.
Away and don't bring a JAPA back.
Yes, sea defense is an expenditure. A JAPA is revenue. E-levy is revenue. So if you take these 2, e-levy and a JAPA, you're already taking, I don't know how much that is based on the minister's calculation in terms of the revenues that we are going to be receiving. So for me, I would say the NDC might not get all the 5 things that they have demanded. They have to be prepared for that.
Okay.
But the minister has to also be prepared to concede and give in to some of the demands, maybe revising some of them. And, you know, there are some who say, I mean, the percentage on the e-levy is too high.
Okay.
So maybe if there's a reduction, I've seen figures like 0.5.
IEA says 0.5.
Yeah, exactly. Things like that. I mean, maybe that might be acceptable to the NDC.
In 1 minute, as we wrap up, so what next? What does the standing order say?
Well, I mean, the standing orders, there are different, I mean, kind of sections of the standing orders that people can stand on, because right now there's a motion that has passed. The NDC, the MPP, the majority is saying they are going to reverse the motion. And there are provisions in the standing orders for that. The Right Honorable Speaker is out of the jurisdiction. His deputy is going to be standing in for him. I'm sure he's going to be very careful not to reverse what his boss has done. You know, that adds another layer of complication, because if the Right Honorable Speaker himself was there, I mean, that would have been a completely different thing.
Right.
There are sections of the standing orders that say, in order to reverse some of these motions, you need about 2/3.
Right.
And I don't know where anybody is going to find 2/3 today in our parliament.
No, 137 plus 137.
Exactly. So for me, rather than pursue the path of legalities and saying this is what the rule says and so on, I mean, I believe they have to be pragmatic and wear their practical caps.
I see. My final question to you is that the finance minister had proposed that in 2022, road tolls were going to be free. Now, we had all agreed by the 2021 budget that road tolls were going to be a revenue source. The finance minister said, subject to the approval of the budget, that was going to be done. Ahead of that, Minister for Roads and Highways, a lawyer, an MP, cabinet minister, had jumped the gun and gone ahead to suspend all of those ones. One of the things that Haruna Idrisu raised in his closing remarks was that is an illegality. What do you say? No,
indeed, it's an illegality. I think everybody agrees, because the budget has in budgeting we have what we call periodicity. A budget starts from a date and ends on a date. In our case, it's January 1st, 31st December. In some countries, if you go to East Africa, it's July 1st, June 30th, and so on. The minister was very clear. What he presented was supposed to take effect when the budget was approved.
Right.
January 1st, 2022. And the minister jumped the gun.
Can he be cited for causing financial loss to the state?
Well, I don't know about that. But you see, I worry when I hear some senior members from the other side saying that what the speaker said about what the minister did was wrong. I mean, they should know that really. I mean, I think there are rules about budgeting.
I hear you very much. Thank you very much. Dr. Rashid Draman is the Executive Director of the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs. Always a pleasure to have you, sir.
Thank
Grateful.
you. Thank
and we will be back with some more here on TV3 New Day. Stay with us.